If you're still using the expression customer satisfaction, you're well behind the times. I think it needs to go to that great graveyard of management ideas. Why? Because customers don't use this language. They don't go to a cafe, a hotel, a restaurant and come back and say, I was partially satisfied, I was 7 out of 10, I was wholly satisfied. They say it was great, or it was rubbish, or it was, just not memorable. And to create fresh ideas, you need a fresh language. And the language of thinking, of creating a legend for the experiences you give to your customers is, I think, very much part of 21st century business life. Let me give you an idea of what I call the customer experience progression. And as you know, most organizations are using the word experience these days because that's more memorable rather than customer service. You're going to buy a newspaper. Average service on this scale, you get your paper. Good service, perhaps the person smiles at you and gives you eye contact. Although in England, if somebody you don't know gives you eye contact, my advice is to run, because it's not something we do too commonly. Next stage up is excellent. Now, the trouble is this word has been so overused and worn out as to become often meaningless. Beyond that, I talk about creating a legend. Why? Because the whole market, the whole of the internet, the whole of human communications is a storytelling machine. As Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon.com, said, if you have an unhappy customer on the internet, he doesn't tell his or her 6 friends, he tells his or her 6,000 friends. So there are stories out there about your business, whether it's, again, on the internet or it's face-to-face. And if the sum total of those stories is positive, you've created a legend. If not, then of course you're notorious. So what can you do to start this journey to become a customer legend? Well, firstly, think, what is it that we can do to get ourselves talked about in the right way? And if our customers aren't doing it, how can we communicate the great stories that we have to our own people to give them that inner confidence and self-belief? Creating a legend starts from within. So what do we have to do to get talked about? Secondly, what are the small, what I call coat hanger moments in your business that get between you and your customers? Let me explain. I spent half my life staying in hotels. I'm deeply frustrated when I paid $200 for a room and they don't give me a proper coat hanger, but one of those little devices that you slip your jacket onto falls off on the floor. What does that say to you as a customer straight away? It says, we don't trust you with a $2 coat hanger. Now, expand this out as a metaphor. What are the coat hanger moments in your business? What are those things that look small from inside the business but loom large on the radar of your customers? And if you don't know, ask your frontline people, because they've probably not bothered to pass the information on. They're experiencing it day in, day out. By the way, a great creative idea that Virgin Atlantic came up with was to give you a salt and pepper pot shaped like an aeroplane, and underneath it says stolen from Virgin Atlantic. And I think it's just a wonderful way of tackling this head on. Finally, remember that people make their judgments with their hearts as much as with their brains. And I think when people start talking about emotional intelligence, it sounds a little bit far away from day-to-day transactions. So I would think about it this way. How enthusiastic are your people? Now, let's be specific about that word, enthusiast. It comes from a Greek root, entheos, in spirit or in God. There is something unstoppable, almost spiritual, about being touched by somebody who's giving you a wonderful experience. And how do you manifest that throughout every touch point in your organization? Lastly, don't let mediocrity creep into your life. We were talking with a client in the US who had aspirations to become a customer legend. They were doing quite well, but not fantastically. And they said to us, Nigel, will you get off our case? We're no worse than anybody else in our industry. And overnight, a colleague produced this to show to them as a new logo. It says on it, no worse than the rest. Do you want to get out of bed to kill for that in the morning? Do you want to tell your grandchildren, I work for an organisation that was benchmarked in the top quartile of performance in the early 21st century? Of course you don't. You want to be part of something great, something we can call a legend.